Everyone knew Princess Aurelia as the girl who never woke. She lay beneath a glass coffin in the tallest tower of Blackthorn Castle, a silent, beautiful tragedy. Her chest rose so slowly, so faintly, that many believed she was already dead, a porcelain doll for mourners to admire. Candles burned around her day and night, their flickering light casting long, dancing shadows on the stone walls. Yet the light never once touched her closed eyes. But this was not the fairy tale people told. This wasn't a story of a sweet princess waiting for a hero's kiss. The truth was far darker, buried beneath years of silence and fear. It all began with a forgotten curse. On the night of Alara's birth, the kingdom of Blackthorn exploded with celebration. Music filled the air, firelight painted the castle walls in shades of gold and orange, and the king invited 3 ancient witches to bless his newborn daughter. But a 4th arrived unannounced, her presence sucking the warmth from the grand hall. She was Moravale, the Witch of Silence, and her eyes held the emptiness of forgotten graves. "You celebrate life." Moravale's voice was a chilling whisper, like wind rustling through a boneyard. "But you fear truth." The king, enraged by her intrusion and her words, banished her on the spot. But as she faded into the shadows, a specter melting into the night, Moravale left her parting gift. A curse, whispered into the very stones of the castle. On her 17th birthday, the princess will prick her finger and fall into a sleep not born of rest, but of regret. The court sorcerers, desperate to calm the terrified king, tried to soften the curse. Aurelia would not die, they assured everyone. She would merely sleep until true awakening found her. It was a comforting lie, a pretty bandage on a festering wound. No one dared to ask what true awakening really meant. And so, 17 years passed. On the morning of her birthday, Aurelia, feeling a strange pull she couldn't explain, found herself wandering into a forbidden, long-forgotten wing of the castle. Dust hung in the air like a shroud, and cobwebs draped the furniture like silken ghosts. There, in the center of a derelict room, she found it. An old spinning wheel. It was humming softly, a low, hypnotic thrum, as if it were alive and had been waiting just for her. Drawn by an unseen force, she reached out. The moment the sharp spindle pierced the skin of her finger, the world went silent, utterly and completely silent. The humming stopped. The castle froze in time. Guards collapsed where they stood, statues of metal and flesh. Fires turned to cold ash in mid-flame. Even the wind outside the castle walls stopped breathing. And Aurelia fell. But she didn't fall into darkness. She fell into dreams. This was her prison. In her sleep, Aurelia wandered through endless, twisting halls made of mirrors. But these were no ordinary mirrors. Each reflection showed her a version of herself she refused to recognize. A girl contorted by anger, a girl trembling with fear, a cruel girl with a sneer on her lips, a broken girl weeping silently. These were the parts of herself she had been taught to ignore, to push down, to pretend didn't exist. A voice, Moravale's voice, followed her through the mirrored maze. "You sleep because you refuse to see," it whispered from every reflection. And in that moment, Aurelia understood. The curse was never meant to be broken by a handsome prince or a hero's sword. It was a self-inflicted wound, fed by the fear, denial, and lies her entire kingdom was built upon. She saw the truth of her father's cruel reign, the terror in the eyes of his subjects. She saw visions of her mother, who had vanished under mysterious and shrouded circumstances. And she saw herself, a perfect princess, taught from birth to smile, to be polite, and most importantly, to look away. The curse wasn't a punishment. It was an intervention. It was her awakening. Outside, the years turned to decades. Princes, lured by the legend, came from far and wide. They fought through the thorny, clawing forest that now consumed the castle. But none succeeded. Some were turned away by the impenetrable vines. Others were never seen again. Inside the dream, Moravale finally appeared before Ilara, offering her a choice. "Remain asleep," the witch offered. "Stay here, in this dream, protected from pain and reality forever. Or, wake up. Wake up and face the truth of your kingdom, the darkness in your own heart, and the terrible cost of breaking this curse." Ilara looked at her fractured reflections, at all the ugly truth she had hidden from, and she chose to wake. With a scream that was part rage and part liberation, she shattered the mirrors. When Ilara's eyes snapped open, the glass of her coffin cracked from top to bottom. The castle did not magically return to its former glory. As the vines withdrew and time lurched forward again, the kingdom woke up changed. The king's lies were exposed. The people's long-suppressed memories of old crimes and injustices flooded to the surface. They remembered everything they had been forced to forget. Moravale was gone. Ilara rose from the shards of her glass prison, not as a rescued princess, but as a ruler who had stared into her own shadows and emerged whole. From that day on, the kingdom of Blackthorn learned a new, more dangerous truth than any fairy tale. Sleep is easy. Awakening is the real curse. Thanks for watching.